Kim Nolan, thank you so much for coming all the ways to Cork from
Carlo.
2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And I was saying to you there before we started, my grandmother, Julia the Cooper, as we called her, she had a dog called Carlo. And whenever I think of Carlo the County, I think of the dog. But I'm actually not, just kind of look back now, I'm like, is it like Carlo, like, some Italian or something? Or was it the county? I'll never know.
Oh God, Brenda, I hope it was a hot Italian because there's not a whole lot up in Carlo to be calling your dog after.
That's what I'll always think, because I used to always spell it Carlow, like if I was spelling the dog's name. But anyway, Kim, delighted to have you. You got in touch with me there a couple of weeks ago on the back of Damien Long's podcast about his daughter Shauna. And when I read your email, first of all, I felt an immense loss reading it. And then I was like, oh my goodness, this lady is so brave to want to come on the podcast. But before we get into that and your reason to be here, can you tell me whereabouts in Carlow you grew up and what was it like for you?
I originally grew up in Carlow Town, in a busy housing estate. And I moved to Tullow then about 15 years ago. Grown up, look, it was a typical childhood. I think in fairness, I'm glad to have grown up in the era I did because it's not the same anymore. It's just not, there was loads to do and I had good friends and we kept busy and, I think your school years are your best years, but you don't see it back then, do you? You think you're never going to get finished.
Yeah, and I said, especially with secondary school.
Oh my God, I hate it.
I hated it as well.
Hate it.
I didn't like it at all.
Hate it.
And then after that, did you go off to college? You do a course?
Oh God, Jesus, Brenda, I'm forever in education. I did. I went and I done a childcare course and I worked on that for a couple of years. And then I thought, maybe I'd like a change. And I went and I done a secretary course. And then I went, I'm not meant for sitting at a computer all day. So I went back to childcare and I done my level 6 in childcare. And you kind of always be doing courses in and out anyway when you're working with kids. And then actually in 2020, the year COVID happened, I signed up to do my degree in early years, thinking I was going to be doing it in class, and I ended up doing the whole thing online, and it was the biggest nightmare because I'm not an online learner. I work way better in class. But look, we got through it. I passed it. I did it. And last November, actually, I changed career. Still work with kids, but I don't work in a creche anymore. I decided I was going to go into SNA, so
great.
I was lucky enough to get my own position, and it's amazing.
And you changed career after the loss of your husband, which we'll get to. Did you change career after that?
Yeah.
My God, even through all that trauma, you managed to change your career.
Yeah.
My God, you're remarkable, Kim.
I try.
You really are. My goodness, people will understand when I say that, when they hear what happened to Thomas. But where did you meet Thomas?
In the first time I ever seen him, we were in Tully's bar in Carlow, and I never spoke to him. He had just been out the same night, and a friend of mine was actually going out with a brother of his at the time, and I remember thinking, God, he's a bit fine bit stuff. About a week later, it so happened that I was in Scraggs Alley in Carlow, and he was there, and it started from there.
Did you go up to him or did he go up to you?
We just kind of ended up chatting all night, and it's actually funny, God, he was so romantic. When we had been sitting chatting for ages, and he told me he was going to the toilet, and I said, okay, and I'm kind of looking at him going, why is he telling me he's going to the toilet? And I knew not until he was kissing me, and it just went from there. Romance is never dead.
Was it like, I'm going to the toilet, and then turned the head?
He was like, I'm going to the toilet back in a minute, and I knew not until he was kissing me, because I was kind of standing there going, okay, why is he telling me he's going to the toilet? But in the process of me having this actual thought, we're kissing, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Did you go to the toilet after the kiss?
Yeah.
And then you probably had time to kind of get yourself together after that while he was gone to the toilet.
That was it. We went on to the nightclub then after that, and he went home and I went home, and I remember the next day thinking we had took each other's numbers, and I hadn't heard off him for ages, and I was thinking, oh, sure, look, it is what it is. And I actually remember when he first texted me thinking, God, he's weird, because he texted me and he was like, sorry, I'm only after turning off my phone. And till the time he died, he turned off his phone every night going to bed.
My God, that's mad, isn't it?
And I could never comprehend it. I used to be like, well, what if someone needed you throughout the night? Like, what if there was an emergency? But sure, when I came along, he was like, sure, I'll ring you now, it's fine.
Yeah. And then when did he get married and all that?
We got engaged after 6 months.
True love.
Well, we agreed to it being a long engagement. And sure, look, as it started out, sure, we proceeded to go that way. There was nothing romantic about it. He thought it'd be hilarious to let me think that he was breaking up with me and then hand me a ring and laugh at me.
No, is that how he did it?
Yes.
I kind of like that though, because that's actually something I'd probably do if I was proposing to a fella.
Yeah.
I'd probably think that's hilarious.
Yeah.
And he probably...
It's funny when I think about it now. At
Yeah.
the time, I didn't think it was that funny. I was thinking, like, I thought this was going really well. And I was like, we were breaking up. And he just pulls out this box and he's like, you're just such an idiot. Like, would you marry me? And I was like...
Stop. Where were you?
We were out at the Dolman Rock.
And he was just, were you having a chat and he was kind of leading it to, look, it's not working out to marry me?
Yeah. And I was kind of sitting there going, okay, well, like, I have no choice but to accept this, but, you know, like, I don't understand it. And like, obviously you're sitting there and I was like, well, like, I thought things were going well, but like, you know, sure, if that's what you want, like, you know, blah, blah, blah. And yeah.
I like that now.
That was our style, yeah. We got married then in 2018 and he thought it'd be ideal to compare me to something you buy off eBay in his wedding speech. Yeah. He looked at my mum and dad and he said, and sure, she was like something off eBay. He said, what way did he word it? When you buy it, you can't return it, and she's still here 7 years later.
Oh my! And what were your mum and dad like?
So everybody just laughed. They knew what he was like. He was always up for the banter. Like, and that was our relationship.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like he'd be off hunting with the boys on a Sunday morning, and he'd ring me, and he'd say, there was a chap up the country, and he'd ring me, and he used to always say that the littlest one was this chap's like, and he'd ring me, and he'd say, he's here now, and he said hello, tell him not to talk to me. He hasn't even sent me maintenance for that child. I'm sick of rearing that child on my own. Like, that was just our relationship. Like, it was just constant banter. Like, you know, there was often times he used to say to me, he'd come home and he'd say, some people just don't get us. And I used to say, what do you mean some people just don't get us? And he'd answer he could answer the phone with a mouthful of abuse, like, as in skitting, like. And he'd get off the phone and the lads would say to him, is that your missus? And he'd go, yeah. And they'd say, God, if I rang the missus now and spoke to her like that, it wouldn't be worth going home to. And he said, God, if I rang her and I didn't speak to her like that, she'd think there was something wrong. Yeah,
you were just good banter.
Yeah.
And then you went on to have 2 beautiful children.
Yeah, so we had one. God, we weren't together. Actually, I think we were literally not long after getting engaged when I found out I was pregnant. It was a big culture shock. Everything was moving a lot quicker than it should have. But I would be a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. And I always knew there was a chance that we weren't going to go the distance and it wasn't going to work out, but we decided we were going to try it, and we did, and we were lucky it worked.
Brilliant.
But like that, I think you have to go into that mindset with everything anyway. Like, you know, like, I think if you were to sit back, like, nothing's ever forever. Nothing's ever promised forever. Like, even in settling down, like there was nothing to say that if what happened, Thomas, hadn't happened, that we'd even still be together now. I'd like to think we were. You know, we could have had our 2 kids reared, and sometimes people rear their children and they become so accustomed to family life that they don't know how to be a couple when their kids are gone and they've spread their wings, and they end up splitting up then, because, you know, there's not never forever. Like, there's always possibility that I was going to be a single mother in some shape or form. I just always thought I would be co-parent, and I didn't think it was going to be on the level I am now.
Yes, yeah. And then you were living away happy out together, and everything was good up until 4 years ago.
Yeah, like, there was nothing. And I think that was the reality check in the situation. I would have been, as I said to you earlier, very, I suppose, naive when you hear these situations happening, and I would have always thought there had to have been something. Someone had to have seen something, missed something. And when Thomas did it, I went, oh, wow. There can be no signs. There can be none. Just a flick of a switch.
He was okay that day. We were chatting earlier.
Great farm.
Tell me about the day that it happened.
He was in flying form. I was actually off work. We were getting a new front door fitted, and there had been a bit of back and forth about who we were getting to fit the front door, what company we wanted. And in the heat of the hunt, I agreed to the company that he was suggesting, because I thought, oh God, if I don't, we're never going to get this front door in. So I just went, okay, we'll just go with them. So they were there and they were fitting the new front and back door, and sure, he was delighted. He had one up on me. He was texting me and he was like, well, how's it going? And I said, yeah, grand. I said, they have the old door out there and the process of putting the new one in, blah, blah, blah. Flying for him. And absolutely, I told you it was going to be a lovely door. So he was met up. He had got this up on me because I was normally the home decor one. And that went on all day, and he was coming home, and we had a porch and we had extended the door. So we had got rid of the porch and pulled the front door out, because up over the front door there was a box room. We used to find the box room used to be a little bit cold with the porch in it. So we decided we were going to get rid of the porch and extend the hall. So we had kind of dug out for them to put in the new front door. And I had actually rang him and I had said to him, they want to know, will they fill this in or are you doing it when you come home? And he said, no, he said, tell them I'm going to do all that now. I have a job to do after work. He said, but when I come home from that, I'm going to get that done. Tell them not to worry about it. I said, all right, grand. In the heel of dawn, it's mad how things work. They actually had cement left over and they had sealed off the bottom of the front door before they left. He came home that evening, same thing, flying farm, went out, packed up what he needed, and he hadn't had dinner or anything, and he went on. And I brought the chap football training. I think it was from 7 till 8. I remember ringing him when we finished up, and I remember saying, I'll ring him now and see, does he want something to eat? I was getting these takeaway on the way home. And he didn't answer. So like that, still no flags, kind of left it, and came on home and sorted the kids out or whatever, rang him another once or twice in the middle, still nothing. And still, look, it wouldn't have been unusual for him not to answer his phone if he was busy or he was chatting or anything, so still like that, thought nothing of it. And I remember getting to about 10:15 and thinking to myself, typical wife, well, the takeaway's closing in 45 minutes and this lad is still not home, so I hope he's happy with beans on toast because I ain't getting up to cook him anything. So I tried to ring him again and he didn't answer, and I went to bed. I was shattered, and I went to bed and I fell asleep within minutes. And I don't think it's a feeling I will ever forget. I woke up and I remember picking up my phone and looking at the phone. I don't know whether that was an instinct to see had he tried to contact me, and it was 10:47 on the phone. And I remember the pit feeling in my stomach. I thought I was actually going to vomit out over the side of the bed, and at this stage I still knew nothing. And I remember ringing his brother and asking him had he spoke to him, and he said, no, now that you say it, actually I rang him at 6 o'clock and he hasn't rang me back. And I said, no, there's something not right. I said, are you free? Because obviously I'm at home with 2 kids. Are you free? And he said, yeah. I said, told him where he needed to go. So he went down and he checked and he rang me and he said, doesn't look like he's been here. And I said, okay. But he said, I'm not 100% sure I'm in the right place either. And I said, okay, give me 5 minutes. So I rang somebody and got somebody straight over to the house to sit with the 2 kids, and I went and met him and we went back down again and checked. And he hadn't been there. And I don't know why. There could have been 6 million places he could be, so I have no idea why, but my initial instinct was, I remember looking at his brother and saying, we need to go to the guards. I remember arriving at the guard station and going in and basically telling them, and like that, like, it makes me sad to see the system we have in operation, because Thomas's phone was still on. Do I think at that point it was too late for Thomas? Yes. But it would always sit in my mind that it may not be too late for somebody else. We had found Thomas by 8:30 the next morning, and they still hadn't even pinged his phone to give me the location. We found him by chance. And that could be the difference, maybe not for Thomas, but for somebody else, that could be the difference between life and death.
There's a certain process, as we were saying,
Yeah. It has to be so they have to send something up to Dublin, and it has to be okayed up in Dublin before it can, and so like that, it is a whole process. And then like that, they can only ping it to the nearest mast. But we were even saying, even with the nearest mast, at least you know the area you're going.
And you would have known that area as well.
Yeah. But so that makes me sad in itself. As I said to you, do I think it could have saved Thomas? No. But it could save somebody else. So that's the hard part. But I remember then going home and start up all that night. I remember ringing my parents to come over at 5 o'clock the next morning so we could go out and start searching. My mum stayed with the kids and myself and Dad went and looked, and we came back, and we had kind of went the road that he was meant to be on. So we came back to the house after we did that, and I live in a small estate, and word had kind of got out and everybody was out ready to go on their droves. And in the process of this, a man he used to work for, but he would have actually been really, really good friends with also, had rang me and he said, I've heard, is there any news? And I said, no, he didn't come home. And he has a farm. And I remember saying to him, can you check your land to save me sending somebody out there? And he said, yeah. And before we even got to head out to look, I remember seeing him coming up the road in a van. It's something I will be grateful to him for. The guards wanted to come to me themselves and he told them no, that he wanted to come and tell me himself. But it was like I already knew. And he stepped out of the van and the only words he could get out of his mouth were, I'm sorry. And I said, it's okay. I know. But I think I understand that process because in fairness to him, he actually drove me. I then had to go and tell his mother and his brothers and his brother and his brothers and sister that we had found him. And I think,
how hard was that?
it's awful. It's probably single-handedly the most horrendous thing I have ever had to do in my life, because you're standing there telling somebody something that you know is going to destroy their whole world. And in a dark humour way, because I think when you've been through situations like this, you end up with a lot of dark humour and life, it gets you by. I yet again had to do that when Mammy died this year. So my sister had to ring me. She didn't actually tell me Mammy was dead. She rang me to tell me Mammy wasn't breathing. And when I got into the house, Mammy was already gone, but her parents were on the way and I was the one that met them.
Oh my God.
And I had to tell them. And I'm like, I'm not. And I think that's definitely the hardest one. Standing telling a parent that their child is dead.
Traumatic.
You're watching somebody's whole life fall apart in front of them. And I think for a parent as well, it's your biggest fear. It's the one thing you think will never happen or you never want to happen. Because realistically, it's not right. You're not meant to go before your kids. Your kids are not meant to go before you. You're meant to go before them.
Then with your own children as well.
Yes.
How did you navigate telling them about Thomas?
Honesty. Probably wasn't fully agreed on at the time, but nobody else had a choice. It was mine. And I quickly learned the importance of that. I remember bringing my son in. My daughter was only 3, so that was kind of Daddy's gone to heaven. He's going to be a star in the sky watching you. You couldn't really tell her any more than that at the time, and she understood it, but she didn't understand it. She didn't understand the permanency of it. My son, honesty had to be key, and I remember sitting him down and telling him, and I think it was the only way I could comprehend telling him was I remember explaining to him that you have like 2 parts to your brain, and your brain they have to work together for you to be okay. And when they don't work together, that sometimes you can be really, really sad. And that's a sickness. And that sickness is called mental health. But the problem with that is that sometimes you don't see it. You don't see it unless somebody tells you. It's not like when you have a sore throat and you have a temperature and I know you're sick and I can bring you to the doctor. If you're sick with mental health and you don't tell anybody, nobody knows. I said, but the thing about it is sometimes you don't even know yourself. But sometimes that sadness goes on for so long and it doesn't go away that you don't want to be here anymore because you're sad all the time. And that's not a nice feeling. Nobody likes being sad. So you hurt yourself. And I remember telling him his daddy had hurt himself. And kids are resilient. And he kind of cried. And then he got up and he decided he was going out. And I said, okay. And I let him go out. And within about 20 minutes, he arrived back in the door and he said, what happened, Daddy? And I said, I told you what happened, Daddy, son. And he said, no, but what happened? You told me Daddy hurt himself. And he didn't even tell me, but in that moment, I kind of went, oh God, like he could have hurt himself in an accident. He could have. And I remember looking at him and going, no, son, Daddy hurt himself. He didn't have an accident. He hurt himself. And I remember him initially looking at me and saying, I hate him. I hate him, I hate him, I hate him, I hate him. And with every fibre of your being, you want to tell him he doesn't hate him. He's his daddy, he loves him. And I remember looking at him going, that's okay. And he left the sitting room. And I remember kind of the family coming in to see how he had taken it and how he was. And I said, he hates him right now. I said, and please don't anybody correct him on that. Not one of us can stand here and tell him how to feel right now. If he chooses to hate him, it's not going to last forever. He's his daddy, he loves him. But right now he hates him. I said, you have to understand that he is 9 years old, and in his mind his daddy chose to leave. This was a decision his daddy made. So if he wants to hate him right now, that's okay. And hate is a very strong word, but at the same time, Brenda, it's something I comprehend. I remember a couple of weeks after Thomas died, and I remember being up at the grave. I would be lucky. I can be such a logical person. I tend to pull myself back pretty quick when I go down a route I shouldn't. But I remember being up at the grave, and I remember I'm looking at my 3-year-old daughter. She's going around watering her daddy's flowers. And I remember in that moment, the hate I felt for him. But I didn't hate him for me. I was an adult. I was going to be okay. But I remember thinking, if I wasn't enough to stay for, why weren't they? I could never do this to them. But within that split second, I remember pulling myself back and thinking, you have never, Kim, never, and be grateful that you have, been in a place where you feel that everyone you love, your children, your family, your mother, your brothers, everybody, that they're better off without you. And that must be such a scary place to be.
I've never kind of thought of it that way.
Yeah.
There's nothing to live for, and you're better off gone.
Yeah. And like, in that moment, I remember thinking, no, you don't hate him. Because how frightening must that be? How frightening must it be to have things that people only dream of? And it's still not to be enough because you're that not okay and you don't know how to say it.
We were chatting earlier about the signs, the what ifs.
Yes.
And you are powerful on how you speak with that, because when it comes to suicide, it's all the what ifs. And people ask you, what were the signs? Was he depressed? What was it? Yeah. Tell me your kind of thoughts on that.
For weeks after, I did do the what ifs, and I think that's only natural. And I remember like that, probably looking like an absolute powerhouse to other people, because other people saying to me, did we miss that, and did we? And I remember looking at other people and saying, you're telling me not to blame myself. So if I'm not to blame myself, you're not to blame yourself, because I lived with him. So if anybody should have seen something, it should have been me. I was the one that spent the most time with him. But that's the fake it till you make it. Because inside I was riddled. Going back over weeks and weeks running up to it, and there had to have been something, there had to have been a sign, there had to have been this, there had to have been that. And I remember just like that one day going, stop. Just stop. Because even if you find the answer, you're torturing yourself looking for an answer. And even if you find it, it's not changing the outcome. You're still here. This is still the reality of what this is. And all you are doing is driving yourself mad. Would an answer be nice? Yeah. But it still doesn't change it, Brenda. It doesn't matter whether I have an answer or I don't have an answer. It doesn't bring him back. The answer doesn't change where I am.
Would you have gone over text messages, reading them and saying, did I miss something here? And like tearing your hair out over stuff like that?
Yeah. Like it consumes you. It consumes you. And that's the scary part about it. If you're going to allow it to consume you, it is going to continue. So I think you have to, for yourself, go no. Just no. Because like that, it still is not changing where I am. Even if I get an answer, what's it doing now?
And I said to you before we started, because the way you speak and like you're remarkable, honestly, Kim, like your strength. I said, oh, have you been through grief counselling? And this is all you.
Yeah.
This is lived experience.
Yeah. I think I would just always have been a very positive person. Like I remember people coming up to me after Thomas died and saying to me, oh, like God, like I'm so sorry. And like, I remember kind of people nearly looking at me like I had 10 heads. But like, I would be a firm believer that no matter what the situation is in life, it doesn't matter how negative it is, you have to find the positive. There's a positive somewhere. There's two emotions that go hand in hand in life, Brenda, and there's a lot of times we don't even realise it. And they're happiness and sadness. And the easiest way to explain that is at Thomas's funeral. It was one of the saddest moments of my life, again at Mammy's. But in that sadness, people are laughing, there's happiness, because they're talking about memories. And they're talking about time spent and things like that. So within that sadness, there's happiness. But the flip side of that is, in your happiest of moments, there can be sadness. And like, I know you've lost your own dad, so like, putting that into perspective, I'm sure there's been times where you have done things and you've achieved things and you have been so happy, but they're always tinged with that little bit of sadness because you would have liked him to see.
Yeah.
They're two emotions that go hand in hand and we don't even realise it.
Yeah, I didn't even kind of ever look at it that way.
You know, it's crazy. It's crazy because you don't, at a funeral, you don't realise that the happiness that's in that moment, because you're consumed by the sadness. But like, you're going, like, there's people going around my house and they're talking about doing this with him, and I heard stories that I had never heard before about him, and I'm laughing at times, and that's the happiness.
Tinge with the sadness. Then you said something very powerful earlier as well. You were saying, like, you know, you had 10 years with him.
Yeah. And that's the positive in a negative situation. Like, people came to me after and people said to me, you know, that, you know, like, oh God, like, my heart is broken for you. My heart was broken, I'm not going to lie. It wasn't the life I thought I was getting. But there was worse off out there than me. And I remember saying that to people and people going, what? And I'm like, I had 10 years with Thomas. And I loved him and he loved me unconditionally. We had two amazing kids together. Yes, I would have loved more time. I would have loved more time with my mum too. Some people never find love, Brenda. Some people can't have kids. I got 10 years of that. It's 10 years more than some people will ever get.
I'm lost for words.
Do you know, like, it's, as I said to you, it was the same with Mam. Like, when Mam passed away suddenly in February, like, I remember being at the end of her coffin and a relation of hers saying to me, she should have had more time. And I said, she should have. There's no denying that. I said, but I got 37 years with Mam. And she said, but you should have had more. And I said, I should have. I said, but I have a son at home that hasn't known his daddy since he was 9. I have a daughter that hasn't known her daddy since she was 3. Like, this September, Aria officially has to remember her daddy for longer than she ever knew. Mammy may have been 58. You're never ready to live. Mammy could have been 170 and I would have always wanted more time. But it's the one thing we take for granted. We always think we have more time. And in a minute, your whole life changes.
Speaking about your mom, she passed away earlier this year.
Yeah.
And sad again. She passed away like you had no time. It was sudden.
No.
She wasn't even sick.
No, but then there's things to be grateful in that sense as well there, Brenda. Like, that's me trying to find the positive in the negative again.
Yeah.
No, Mammy wasn't sick. And it was sudden. And you don't get to say goodbye. Not the way you'd like to say goodbye. But the upper hand of that is Mammy died in her sleep. I do say she manifested it. She always used to say if she could pick how she wanted to die, she wanted to go to bed and never wake up. Who doesn't want to die like that, Kim? She'd say. And I used to be like, well, that's a fair point. It's a nice way to go. But yeah, it's hard not getting to say goodbye. But there's people that get to say goodbye and they've had to watch their parents or their loved ones suffer. I didn't have to watch Mammy suffer. She wasn't sick. She was here and she was gone. Would I have wanted to see my mum in pain? No. So if I could choose for her how she got to go, that's the way I'm choosing for her.
At any stage did you kind of feel when that happened with your mum, like, oh, you took Thomas from me and now my mother's gone from me suddenly? That's a lot of loss, sudden loss to comprehend.
It's a lot of sudden loss, but it probably was a little bit angry with life. I think that's a natural instinct, and I think it's a natural emotion in grief anyway, is anger at points. But at the same time, like, it's the circle of life. It's not something any of us want to have to go through, but it's something that every one of us are going to face. That is life. Do you know? And I think the thing about it is you're either going to let grief consume you or you're going to choose to live again. Do you know? And like, it's easy to win in life when you're winning. Like when life is going great and you're winning, it's great to continue winning. But if you can learn to win when things aren't great, that's the real win.
Yeah, it is. It is. That's the real strength.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier as well just how you were jealous at times of people being able to just go into bed, shut the curtains,
100%.
and just like be done with the
100%.
day, done with the week, done with
That
life.
was never an opportunity for me. And I used to be envious. Now, when I look back on it, I think I'm grateful that I couldn't, because I think I can understand how easy it would be to get into bed and never get back out. But at the time, I had 2 kids, and they were all eyes on me, and their whole world had just been torn apart. And I had to show them that life was going to be okay. So that wasn't an option. And on the days I didn't want to, I got up. On the days I didn't want to cook dinner, I didn't want to do anything, I got up and I showed up and I did it. I've pushed so far as to say that the eldest lad didn't want to go back to school. The little one was in creche and that's just fun and play and she loved it. I went back to work, I think 3 weeks after Thomas died. 1, because I had to show him this is our new normal and we have to navigate this. And secondly, because I could see bad patterns setting in. I was quite happy to drop him to school and I was quite happy to drop her to creche and go and sit at the grave for 3 hours while she was in creche. And I was like, Kim, this is not okay. This is not healthy. So I said, no, shake it now and go back to work. And I did. I was lucky I worked in a place that was very understanding at the time and they were amazing and their support was amazing. But yeah, I went back to work and just get on with it and that's it.
This is kind of through a bit of COVID as well, isn't it? Because it's 2021.
It's common, yeah. It was like, I remember actually a few people got COVID after Thomas's funeral and I remember the HSE ringing me and them asking me for contact tracing. Oh God, but Jesus, Brenda, like his funeral was massive. Like massive. I said, you may start down at the bottom of Ireland and work your way up to the top because I have no idea who could have this. Like you're...
And did they even know it was because of a funeral?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
They had been given my details from someone that had tested positive.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it was nuts.
Because then as well, were people coming in with the mask at the funeral still?
Some people were and some people just didn't care. Do you know, some people were and some people just didn't care.
Oh my God, what age was Thomas?
37.
You're 37 now, aren't you?
Yeah. And it's crazy, like, because you go through experiences, like I had said to you in email, that the day we brought Thomas home was probably the first and only ever panic attack I ever have. And I actually remember breaking my mother's heart that day. What had happened was when Thomas obviously left, he left with his Jeep. And I was antsy, I wanted it home. And I was conscious of Aria, not so much Kaidyn. And I remember saying, I can't just drive it up the road. She's going to think Daddy's coming home and he's not coming home. How do I do this? And some things are just like a light bulb moment. Aria, it wasn't an option. She was kind of taken out of the house for the wake. A friend of mine took her and she met me the day of the funeral. But I gave Kaidyn a choice and Kaidyn decided he didn't want to be there. And I said, that's okay. I was glad I did give him the choice because I do remember him coming back to me afterwards and saying, you didn't let me stay. I said, no, I asked you. You didn't want to stay. I would have never took that decision from your son. And when I said it to him, he went, oh, you did. So I was so glad I didn't make that decision for him. But they had left. And I remember just a light bulb moment. And I remember going, his Jeep is going to come home with him. So the day because we brought him home to our house, like, and so I went and met him at the funeral home. And his mum actually came with me. And I drove his Jeep and Guard of Honoured him home to our house in the Jeep. And I remember pulling the Jeep into the drive and stepping out, and you can park like 2 cars parallel in my drive. And I remember stepping out of the Jeep. And I remember when I stepped out of the Jeep and seeing the hearse reversing into the drive, that was a reality slap. I think that was Monday. We had got him home Monday, and I think from finding him the Saturday and the Sunday, I had put so much into planning the funeral because this was the last thing I could do for him, and it had to be perfect and it had to be a proper representation of him. And so I don't think I even really comprehended what was going on, but I don't think I had absorbed it. And I remember standing out of the Jeep and I remember seeing the hearse reversing into my driveway, and I don't ever want to experience it again. And I have not only empathy for somebody that would frequently suffer from panic attacks, because I remember just my 2 knees just going to complete jelly. I couldn't breathe. I remember wanting to vomit. I remember starting to sweat. And I walked to the back of the Jeep, to the tailgate of the Jeep, and put my 2 hands on the tailgate and bent over to start to breathe. And I remember my mum coming to put her arm around me. And I remember looking at her going, no. And she went, but and I said, no, you need to leave me alone right now. And I remember the hurt in her face. And it was never my intention. But I knew Mammy was a safe place. And I knew that if she had have got near me, I was going to go into that. I wasn't going to come out of it. So I needed to be left to pull myself back out of it. And I did within a matter of minutes. I just refocused and just started breathing, and just like that, just was like, okay, just get up and get on with this. But I knew if Mammy had come to me, I wasn't. And I remember pulling her after that evening and saying, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. And I didn't. But I said, you're a safe place. I said, and I knew if you had came to me, I was going into that. I wasn't coming out of it. And I couldn't go in that. As weird as it sounds, to me, I wasn't allowed to go into that moment there and then. Because if I had had a panic attack, people were going to come to me, people were going to come on to it. And that wasn't my moment, that was his. They were his final moments, they were about him. They were never to be about me, they were about him. Do you know, and I think as well, Brenda, like, nobody can tell you how to go through that. Like, I made decisions for myself along the way, and that, like, one of the decisions I made was not staying in when they closed Thomas's lid. And it's something I don't regret. And I'm glad I made the decision, because for me, I didn't want that to be my final memory of the last time I seen his face was the lid going on the coffin, and I just went, no, I'm not doing it. And I think you grow from these situations. As strange as that sounds, they break you, but you definitely come back stronger. Because no is not a word I fear anymore. I used to be a real people pleaser. And now I'm like, no, if I don't want to, I don't have to. As simple as that. If I don't want to, I don't have to. And that's okay too.
I think people, sometimes they don't, like, people think that people pleasing is a good thing. It's really not.
No, it's not.
It's really not. It's a really bad thing.
So bad.
So bad. When they were closing the coffin, was it just that you removed yourself from it, and did other people stay in, or was it
Other
ever you all
people, no,
went?
other people did stay in. I didn't ask any. That was just my personal choice. I didn't make it for anybody else. I had told everybody that was the decision I was making. And when they told me they were going to close the coffin, I walked out and I just stood outside the door and wait.
It is. I'm just reliving that part of, like, funerals I've been to, and it is an awful.
Yeah, and I just thought, no, that's not. Like, I had already done enough. Like, I had went out to see Thomas on site that morning. He was stretchered on site, and I went out to see him on site. So I was like, no, for me, that wasn't going to be my final memory. And I was like, just, no, that's my decision, and I'm allowed to make that, and that's okay.
Can I ask, when you went out to see him and he was stretchered on site, like, I know it sounds obvious, like, what was your reaction? Obviously, it's going to be of trauma, but was there disbelief?
He looked like he was asleep, which was strange. Not strange, obviously they do look like they're asleep, but no. And you know, it's funny, I am so grateful that I did, because everybody had told me not to. And I was just, something was like, I just have to go. I just have to go. And when I went out, he just looked like himself. As I said, he looked like he was asleep. Obviously, Thomas had to be autopsied. And I remember when he came home, I went, that was the best decision I ever made. And obviously, it depends on the circumstances around the death and stuff like that. But for me, it was the best decision I ever made, because he looked like himself. They don't after autopsy so much.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Kim, I don't know what to say. I say a lot about guests blown away, but you really... I can't get over your strength and your resilience, and
I think life is negative enough, Brenda, and if you just look at it negatively, you have to choose to be happy. And you have to choose to be happy when you're sad, when you're angry. You have to choose to heal and be happy. If you were going to wait till you're happy to be happy, are you ever going to be happy?
Never going to be happy. Even when I rang you today, when we were coming up to the studio, it was the first time you rang me. It was the first time we heard each other's voice, because we were WhatsApping. Yeah. Straight away, and I said it to you when I met you, like, you were so positive on the phone. Because I suppose when you read an email and there's so much loss, I'm prepping myself for, obviously I'm always very empathetic to people, but I'm prepping myself, with this, a lot of sensitivity around this guest, which I will have with everyone, because duty of care is so important to me. But your energy is so positive. Like I'm after getting some of your energy. And you really, even for me, even chatting to you, you've put like so much into perspective for me. And like you're going to help so many listeners. You really, really are.
Like Brenda, like the way I look at it, like, is in that split second, my life changed. In a split second, anybody's life can change. I probably was lucky I had the kids, like I said to you, because I thought that was a fake it till I make it thing. But like that, because I faked it for so long, like after Mammy died, I remember saying it to Daddy, you're going to have to push yourself. You're not going to want to do anything. And you don't. You know that. You don't. You don't want to. I don't want to go to the shop. I don't want to go to work. I don't want to. You have to go against the grain on every inch of that. And that's the forcing yourself to be happy, even when you're not happy, when you're sad, because there will eventually just come a day where you're going to go, I'd actually like to do that. And you're not forcing yourself anymore. But if you don't push yourself out of your comfort zone, you're going to stay where you are forever. Like everything you want is outside your comfort zone all the time. And that comes in every aspect of life, be it your job. If you want to progress, you have to push yourself out of your comfort zone. With sports, if you want to progress, you have to push yourself out of your comfort zone. But it comes with the emotional side of things as well. Do you know? And I think you have to choose to live. And I think like that, like me and Thomas would have put so much off. Like when we got married, we were going to New York, and we were going to go to New York on honeymoon. I found out I was pregnant on Aria. So she was only going to be 5 months old by the time we got married. And I said, I'm not going. She's too small. I'm not going. Like that, because I thought we had forever. We'll go when the kids are older. When the kids are older, nobody needs to mind them. Sure, it'll be grand. It should be forever. Now I'm like, go. If you have the money, go. If you don't want to cook dinner tonight, don't. Go get a takeaway. It's all right. It's only one night. Do you know?
Yeah.
Like, because like that, you don't have forever. You just don't. You think you do, but you don't. So like, the way I looked at it was after Thomas died, and even again this year after Mammy died, is, no, it's not ideal, but it is a circle of life. It's coming to us all. Unfortunately. It's not nice, but it is the circle of life. And would I change any of it? No. To be honest with you, even in 2 deaths, if someone said, would you take either of their places? Absolutely not. Not in a bad way. But I don't think Thomas would have mentally coped with 2 kids. So if it had to be me or him, just, no, he wouldn't have. The same with Mammy. Like, Mammy should never have to watch me go. Do you know what I mean? Like, the way that, especially with Mammy, the way that circle of life worked was the way it's meant to go. Not everybody is that lucky. Like, I had to watch my mother's mother bury her daughter. That's not right. That's not the way it's meant to be. I had to watch Thomas's mother bury him. And I remember like that, even that was another perspective I had on it. Like, it's people saying to me, I remember saying to Thomas's mother one day, like, it was always her and the kids I felt sorry for, because I can't replace their daddy. She cannot have another son. I can't replace Thomas, and I'm not saying I can, nor would I want to. What me and Thomas had was unique. It was ours, and it's not replaceable. But I can choose to love again if I want to. Is it going to be the same? No, but it's not meant to be. It's not meant to be the same. It's meant to be different.
No,
because what we had was ours. So if I choose to love again, it's going to be different, and that's okay, because it's with somebody else and it's meant to be different. I can't replace Thomas, but I can have love in my life again if I wanted. I can't replace my kid's loss. I can't replace his mum's loss, his brothers and sisters' loss. That's an irreplaceable loss.
And you know what? I hope you do find love again in the future. I really do.
Someone be brave to put up with me now,
Because,
Brenda.
well, they'd be Kim, they'd be a very, very lucky man.
Thank you very much.
I can't get over your mindset.
I think mindset is everything.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
But there's psychotherapists, psychologists, honestly, counsellors, therapists who can't even speak like you speak, and that's lived experience.
Yeah.
Like everything you've said there, there's so much to learn from it.
I remember briefly speaking to a counsellor one day, just brief
You were probably counselling
conversation.
them, were you?
She was going home to write things down after talking to me. And I was like, oh, that's definitely not for me anyway. I think I had said something to her. That was what I had said to her. I had said something to her like, I would be a firm believer that people don't treat you based on how they feel about you. Sometimes people treat you based on how they're feeling. And she was like, explain that to me. And I said, well, you're after having a bad day and you're at home and you're washing the dishes and your husband or your son or somebody comes in and you absolutely cut the snot off them and it's not intentional. And they walk on out anyway and you're standing there and then you kind of go, oh God, that was actually nothing to do with them. Nothing to do with them. I had a bad day now and I'm after projecting that out onto them, and you have to kind of go back and apologise and be like, I'm really sorry. It was nothing to do with you. I had a crap day in work. Shouldn't have snapped at you like that. Wasn't your fault or whatever. She was like, I said, people don't treat you based on how they're feeling about you. Sometimes people treat you based on how they're feeling. She was like, I need to go and write that down.
She's probably doing that now in her therapy sessions and they're all like, oh my God, that's amazing.
I say counselling is definitely not for me.
Well, I am an advocate of people talking, but like you actually are. Would you ever thought about going into counselling?
I've often been told, someone actually said to me, would you be a life coach? And I was like, oh God, I don't know. I would love to think I could, but I think my problem, Brenda, is I'm a real empathetic person. And I honestly don't know if I went into counselling or anything like that. And I think you have to be wise enough to know your boundaries too.
Yeah.
I don't think I could go home and not be carrying other people's trauma with me.
Yeah.
I think my life would just be taken over because I would just be carrying their pain and their, like, I think I don't think I'd be able to leave work in work.
Yeah, I understand.
And I think that's something, and it was something I had to think about even in my current job. I remember when I decided to change my role and go into SNA, and I remember like that kind of going, okay. And I remember thinking, I don't want to actually go into I'm in a school, but I'm in a mainstream school. I didn't want to go into a special school. And I think the people that do it are remarkable people.
Incredible.
Remarkable people. But I was also honest enough to know that I don't think that I am that person. Younger kids, yes, but I think when you go into a lot of special schools, they range from juniors right through to 6th year. I don't think I would have the capability for the older end of it. And when I say that, I mean as in regards to like changing and things like that. And maybe I would, if it came to it. But in my mind, I didn't want to go in. And I know I sound like I'm contradicting myself now, because I always say to my son, you can't be afraid of failure because you have to fail to succeed in life. But I think in that situation, that's somebody's care needs. And I would prefer to admit that I don't think that I could do that than to go in and not do my job properly. Before
I finish up, I'd say you're the friend that the other friend goes to if they have a problem, because you'll be able to talk to them and you're the one they'll go to because you've been through so much yourself. You're that friend they know, I'll have a chat there now with Kim and, she'll put me right. She'll put me right.
Yeah, but my friends would also, most of my friends would actually have a really good mindset as well. Like, I am blessed with the group I have.
You are. What did they say, the average of 5 people you surround yourself with?
Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure. I have a few questions to ask you.
Yeah, fire away.
Kim, if you could go back to your lowest moment and whisper one truth to yourself, what would it be?
My lowest moment and whisper one truth to myself. Keep going. It gets better. Not every day is going to be perfect. You're not going to have it together every day. And some days you're only going to put one foot in front of the other. As long as you put one foot in front of the other, you're moving, and that's okay.
Number 2, what did rock bottom teach you that success never could?
It's funny because that was the one you told me was a tricky question, and my only answer to that would be that success actually doesn't matter, Brenda. You can have it all. You can have the house, you can have the flashy car. But when it comes to it, nobody walked into my house or into my mother's house and spoke about what Thomas or Mammy had. They didn't talk about my lovely new front door that I just went in the day before. They didn't talk about the cars that were in the drive. Time. Memories. And they're things that money can't buy. Some people get so wrapped up in trying to build their career and build their life. Get the big fancy house, get the big fancy car. I want the big business. that they forget to live. And when you're gone, there wasn't one person stood in my house and spoke about what we had or what we didn't have, or it was, oh God, do you remember the time we did this? And oh God, do you remember the time he did that? Spend your time wisely with people.
You're well able for that question anyway. Best answer I've had so far for it. Number 3, what's the one message you would give someone who feels like they're never going to make it out?
Keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Life is not easy, but you have to choose to be happy. And even on the days you're not happy, do it anyway. If I'm having a bad day and I say, okay, I'm going to go for a hike, I'm going to go for a run, I'm going to go to the beach. That could be the one thing that I'm dreading doing. And that one thing could be the thing that's going to bring me happiness that day. Just stay pushing. I know it's hard to think that it's never going to get better, but it does.
Kim Nolan from County Carlow, I'm so delighted you made the journey down to Cork because you have been incredible. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Amazing.